Right. I don't think I'm gonna be the guy that's able to figure out the quality of audio. So I know you said it wasn't that bad. So let's just give this a shot, and we'll improve next time. I'll get advice from Eddie on how to exactly get this audio to sound better. I'm only using the audio from our office webcam and not from the full audio, so that's probably my biggest problem here. But ah, we'll figure it out and fight through it. So I'm gonna go through each and every game today. I'm also going to um, go over some injury stuff as well. So we'll go through each game. If you have anything start sit wise, definitely drop it down in the comments. Happy to answer those. And then, I mean, anything other than that, I'm probably going to look at some of my owner's box lineups as well with my season long lineups. I haven't set those on Thursday, but you always got to double check because there's a lot of stuff going on right now in terms of players that are on the cusp of playing, are expected to play, all sorts of stuff there. Van Jefferson or Devontae Freeman. God, those are some good options this week. Freeman's a great option against the Steelers. The Steelers have been giving up a lot of explosive runs. They haven't been great against the run this year. Odell is expected to play. Full PPR. I'd probably go Freeman, to be honest with you. I really, really like him this week. Okay, so I'm gonna go through each of these games. Stafford or do you get hosed by Lamar? Yeah, you can play Lamar. I think you got to play Lamar. Lamar might have some real success on the ground. I just mentioned that about Freeman. The Steelers are pretty bad against the run. Devin Bush coming back from that ACL injury just has not been anywhere near the same guy he was before the injury in 2020. So I like what the Ravens can do on the ground today. Stafford is just like those interceptions are not helpful. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Eagles and the Jets. We have Jalen Hurts out, Gardner Minshew in. Here's what I think. Boston Scott is going to play an illness that he's been dealing with all week. He is going to be back. I do think it's going to be a lot of Miles Sanders and some Boston Scott. Uh, the Eagles are definitely going to take more of a traditional approach to running the football. It's certainly not going to be Gardner Minshew, but the Jets have been brutal against the pass. They're giving up almost 300 yards a game in the air lately, the last like 4 weeks. So I mean, Minshew could have a day if you do have him on your wire in super flex leagues. I would probably play him. He wouldn't be someone I would play this week in one QB leagues, but on OwnersBox DFS, he's definitely worthy of a play. And I think that Goddard and Devontae Smith have a good shot to have a big game here. And I mean, even if you're really desperate, someone like Quez Watkins on the outside might not be a terrible option, but it's a good passing matchup for the Eagles here. And Sirianni early in the season didn't really want to run the ball at a high rate with Hurts, but kind of realized that this is what we need to do to win. So I think with Minshew, he's going to be happy to throw the ball with him. And Minshew could have a good game this week. Jets side of things, Corey Davis is back. That kind of makes me less excited about anybody in the offense. Like I'm not prone to putting out any of the Jets running backs. I can't remember if I saw that Walton guy got sent back to the practice squad. I don't know if that's just, semantics type deal where they're just going to bring him back up before the game. But regardless, I don't want to play any of these Jets running backs. And even from the wide receiver side, Zach Wilson, when he was playing with Corey Davis, when Corey Davis was healthy with Zach Wilson on the field, Davis was the number one option. But Elijah Moore's looked really, really good. I can't see the coaching staff, not wanting to get him involved in this game too. So it's hard to really play any of them. But I'd probably sit Corey Davis, and then I'd be willing to play Elijah Moore in this game, but I would be very excited about it. Moving to Giants, Dolphins. Again, if you guys have questions, start sit questions, definitely drop them in the comments. Happy to answer them. Just going to go through every game, go through some injuries, go through some start sit stuff as well. Giants, Dolphins, like I mentioned, Glennon starting, no Shepard, no Tony. So this is Galladay, Slayton, and Ingram. So I would be willing to play Ingram if you're desperate at tight end. But I mean, the Slayton has had more of the work. He's had a bigger share than Galladay has. But that doesn't mean that I'm willing to play these guys this week. The Dolphins pass D has been kind of up and down all year, but I do think it's tough to play any of those guys in this game just with Glennon starting. I don't want to do it. But Ingram is a decent flex or a decent tight end, you know, back end tight end 1, probably more likely a front end tight end 2 in that 14-15 type category. Just with when you bring in the backup, they're always more likely to look at the middle of the field and use the tight end as kind of a safety valve of sorts. We've seen it in previous weeks. You know, Mason Rudolph with Freiermuth, for example. So I'd be willing to play Ingram. Wouldn't be that excited about it, but that'd be the only guy aside from uh, Saquon Barkley that I'd be willing to play. Okay, Vikings, or I guess didn't cover the Dolphins. It looks like Devontae Parker was activated yesterday, so I would assume he's probably going to play. I was a little bit worried about Philip Lindsay being brought in off of waivers, but I'm pretty sure Lindsay's dealing with something. He hadn't been practicing this week, so I think he got another week of Gaskin. I think Gaskin has the chance to have a really, really good week. So that's certainly worth a look there. And then from the from the Waddle side, you're of course going to play Tua. I kind of see Tua outside the top 12 this week. Can't remember exactly where I have him in my rankings, but he's definitely like 15, 16 range. That's basically what I think on the Dolphins this week. Gaskin's definitely a good play. Waddle, you have to trot out there each and every week. I would not be putting Waddle on your bench at any point. But that's things on this Giants Dolphins game. Vikings Lions. I think Jamal Williams is a really, really good play this week. I think there's a ton of backup running backs or maybe committee running backs that are stepping into full on starter roles. And I think Williams has a really good shot to have a big week this week. The Vikings are very bad against the run. I think they're giving up the most yards per carry. They're somewhere around 28th, I think, in DVOA. We're starting two, Harry. Who are we going with? Jamar, Waddle, and Javonte. Whew! I would love to have this type of decision in one of my leagues. I would assume this is 10 team. Jamal. Well, I mean, if you drafted well, you could have all three of these guys in a 12 team. You have to play Jamar. The Chargers are dealing with some injuries in the secondary, namely Asante Samuel Jr., who's been like their best player between their cornerbacks this year. So it's going to be Michael Davis. Tevon Campbell has been getting cooked since he stepped in. They're not even willing to put Chris Harris Jr. out wide because he's old and washed up at this point. So you got to play Jamar, but Javonte is a second there. Like in terms of my rankings of the three, I'd probably go Jamar, Javonte, Waddle, and I love Waddle, but Javonte's in for a nice workload tonight with Gordon out. Nice. That's a good looking team there. Fournette for Robinson, Carter, Pittman. Nice. Yeah, that's a solid team. Um, you lost Cook and Swift. Yeah, Boston Scott and Rex Burkhead. What do you think? If you're talking Jamal Williams and Jamal Williams is still on your wire, he's an absolute smash over both those guys. Scott's going to be splitting with Sanders coming off an illness. Both those guys are banged up, but I would definitely go with Williams over them. Singletary definitely not. Leave me out of the Bills running backs. So I'd probably play Burkhead and I'd probably play Burkhead and Williams off the wire. I definitely would not play. I definitely would not play Boston Scott. Too much up in the air there. Should you do the trade? Let's see. So I just got offered Fournette for Robinson, Carter, and Pittman. Jeez. You're in the playoffs. You said, yeah. Um, Robinson, Carter, and Pittman. God. Yeah, I do. You know what? Your team is. Now that I look at your team, you've got Fournette. Yeah, I probably would hang on to him just because you don't need all these guys here. I don't know what you're going Jamar Diggs. Like, what are you going to do with this decision on Robinson? You're going to decide between Robinson, Pittman, and who's the other guy you mentioned, Carter. Like, of who to start. You don't really need that, especially the way Fournette's been playing and the work he's been getting. I think you're good there. Tua or Russ? I would play Russ. I've been dogging Russ the last few weeks. I don't like how he's been playing, but I would probably still go Russ. Um, Who do the Seahawks have again? Yeah, they have the 49ers. 49ers pass D hasn't been great this year, so I would go Russ. Okay. Lions, right. Yeah, love Jamal Williams. Just with Dan Campbell play calling, it's just been run the ball. So why would we think that's going to change? I think they still have a lot of confidence in Jamal Williams with DeAndre Swift off the field. And Swift had not been very efficient this year. He'd been he'd been pretty much one of the least efficient starting backs in the NFL. So I think Williams is in a great spot. Vikings are bad, bad, bad against the run. Just keep that in mind, especially if he's still on any of your wires. Like I have him as a top 10 back this week. From the rest of the Lions, I mean, yeah, we're going to keep trotting Hawkinson out. Other than that, I mean, what else are you going to do? Um, I wouldn't really be worried about playing any other Lions. Even Superflex, like Goff's a tough guy to trot out there in a Superflex league. Viking side of things, Madison's already played the Lions this year, ran for like 125 yards. So I'm definitely playing Madison if I have him, but I would start Jamal Williams over Alexander Madison this week, surprisingly. Not by a lot, but I still would do it. And then, I mean, Conklin, I would play Evan Engram over Conklin this week. OBJ is expected to play. Hip injury, he is expected to play though. So I'd probably play, if I have both OBJ and Van Jefferson, I'm playing Van Jefferson over OBJ just because you never know with a limit of snaps and whatnot. And in a game against the Jaguars where I don't think they're going to be too worried about whether or not they're going to be able to win this game. And I'll keep that in mind when we're talking about the Rams game here with when it comes to Darrell Henderson. So because he's unlikely to play, it looks like. So I'd be like, why wouldn't you just sit him? I mean, the Rams are a really good team. I get it. The Bills lost to the Jags a few weeks ago, but I mean, why not just exercise caution with a guy like Henderson, who seems to just be constantly banged up? Okay, Colts Texans. I don't want to play Rex Burkhead. I know I just mentioned that you can play him in that scenario, but I don't want to play Rex Burkhead. I don't want to play the majority of like I usually like Tyrod as a fringe QB1 option and a really good superflex play. He's going to be tough this week to play. I'm definitely not including him in any of my DFS or OwnersBox lineups. So even Brandon Cooks, we're just not seeing the volume from like early on. He's definitely someone that you're going to play, but who's a good low price tight end? James O'Shaughnessy. Love James O'Shaughnessy. If you didn't watch our must start video from earlier this week when I had Melvin Gordon, who's now not playing, but the other guy was O'Shaughnessy. Look, Trevor Lawrence is targeting tight ends at like a 22% rate this season, and O'Shaughnessy stepped in. It was his first game back. He had 5 targets when Dan Arnold went down. Uh, James O'Shaughnessy, absolutely, like I love him. He's averaging like 7 targets a game to tight ends. So I'm happy to take whoever is playing tight end for the Jags. I don't care about skill level. I didn't think Dan Arnold was like an all-world tight end, but I do like O'Shaughnessy this week, especially cheap on OwnersBox and then definitely on your wire. Matt Ryan or Minshew. I would probably go Minshew, to be honest with you. I mentioned it off the top, but the Jets are horrible against the pass. They're averaging like quarterbacks are averaging like 280 yards against them this year. So I would probably play Minshew. Matt Ryan has been brutal fantasy wise again. He had that little up of a few games, and then now he's right back down. Fryermuth, Beasley, or D Hop. You got to play D Hop. It's very different this year from previous years with Hopkins. Usually it's been the production comes from volume. This year it's been touchdown. So even if he's on like a limited snap count, I'm sure the snaps that he's going to get are going to be high value snaps. Half PPR Lockett or Hopkins. I would probably go Lockett there. Lockett just gives me more safety at the position. Fryermuth is just a completely touchdown reliant play. I will say I don't want to go I don't want to go all over the map here because I do want to cover all the games, but I have taken Ben Roethlisberger's over 22.5 completions. So here's the deal: the Ravens are very stout against the run. I wrote an article on our blog. I'm just going to open it up so that I make sure I get all these numbers, because there's I think their stuff rate is number 1 in the NFL. Um, let me just pull this up here. Pretty sure it is. I just want to make sure I get my numbers right here. Because I have Ben as a great option on OwnersBox this week at his price. Give me a second. Computer's being slow. Hurts is out. Yeah, Hurts is out. Ankle injury is keeping him out. They're going with Minshew this week. So that makes these pass catchers more valuable. That makes Goddard and Smith really valuable plays, and then that kind of brings in the opportunity that a guy like Quez Watkins has a good week. Okay, so yeah, the Ravens are giving up four yards per carry, and 29% of all runs by opposing running backs against the Ravens end up being tackled at or behind the line of scrimmage. This Steelers team last season was throwing the ball just a ridiculous amount because James Conner, etc. All those backs were not efficient. So I think that's going to happen here, and they're going to be throwing the ball a ton, just like 2020, because the Ravens are brutal in terms of giving up explosive pass plays. They're giving up, I think their yards per completion, 12.7 yards per completion. So I think Ben's going to be throwing the ball a lot. Like we're looking at a game where he's probably going to have 50 passing attempts. So I think he easily meets that 23 completions there. So I like Ben as a good option on OwnersBox, a good super flex play this week. And then I love Chase Claypool on the outside as an opportunity to have a big week. Deep league PPR need to start 2. Corey Davis, Josh Reynolds, Sutton, Breida. Whew. Yeah, this is a desperate spot. So I'm definitely going to go Davis and Sutton. I don't love Sutton this week. Judy's just been taking the majority of volume, and Sutton's definitely been the 2 since Judy's been back. But I can't play Reynolds off of the big catch was that on Thanksgiving? Yeah, the big catch on Thanksgiving. I'm not going to then put him in my lineup. And then Breida, I don't want to touch a Bills running back with a 10-foot pole, so I'd go Davis and Sutton. Davis, there's that off chance that, like I mentioned, the Zach Wilson Corey Davis connection is back with both them on the field together. Okay, let's keep it rolling here. What did you guys? Who here watched some college football on Saturday? Saw that big Alabama win. Man, Bryce Young is going to be a really good NFL quarterback. 14-team league, yeah. Yeah, I would just go Sutton and Davis. I mean, it's just I feel like those guys can provide you a floor where Reynolds and Breida can throw you a 2 and a 3 in terms of fantasy points. Okay, where were we? Oh, Colts Texans. Yeah, so Colts side of things, Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman you'd be rolling out. I know Pittman's been a little not on that same level, but I do think that you'll be fine playing those guys. And then I think Hines could be a potential, let's not give Taylor 30 touches today when we don't need to type play. So maybe Hines runs into like 10 touches today and can do something for you. That's like the type of player that if I was, like you had mentioned, Brian, with Reynolds and Breida, like I'd rather go with a guy like Hines who might, who always gets mixed in the pass game, gives you some floor with PPR, and then there's the opportunity where maybe he gets some more touches today just because they got an easy matchup against the Texans. Okay, and then let's go Chargers-Bengals. Huge game for both of these teams, man. The Chargers are reeling right now. Ever since that, 4-1 start for my Chargers, they're just like flip-flopping back and forth in terms of how they're playing. So let's go with the Chargers first. Mike Williams is just not a player you can play each and every week. The Bengals have been pretty good defensively this season. I know it's a surprise. So I would be sitting Mike this week. The Chargers are dealing with some really bad offensive line play. Filer's going to be back, which is good, but they're still playing Storm Norton, which is just not. He's just not a good player. Like the offensive line, every team probably talks about how they've got they want to beef up the offensive line, but the Chargers' depth is brutal. So Herbert just hasn't had the time to get through his progressions, and Mike has just not been a guy that's early on in those progressions. So I'd probably be sitting him this week, but I'm definitely, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, of course. Jared Cook, I think, is just always a back end tight end 1, front end RB or tight end 2 play each and every week. So, just keep trotting him out there. If you guys are watching, drop a like, please. Let the people at OwnersBox know that you're enjoying. I know I'm pretty sure the audio quality is not great, but we're going to work on that for next week. Okay, Bengals side of things. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, trotting out. Joe Mixon, you're trotting out. Joe Burrow, good start. Good start this week against the Chargers, who are, yes, they're improving against the run, still not great, but it's also hurting them in their how they're defending the pass. In terms of like weighted DVOA, weighted is like looking at things more recently. They just have not been very good. So I would be looking to play even like Tyler. I'd rather play Tyler Boyd than what we mentioned earlier. Tyler Boyd over Corey Davis, Tyler Boyd over those Josh Reynolds, Matt Breida guys in my flex, over Rex Burkhead. I would be playing all 3 wide receivers from the Bengals if you have them. And Joe Burrow, of course. I think Joe Burrow is a top 10 QB this week. Bucks and Falcons. I mean, I didn't even look, but I would just assume Antonio Brown is not playing again this week. I'd be surprised. I don't know when he's going to come back. Yeah, I would be surprised if they just keep him on the shelf until the playoffs or near the playoffs, till the last week of the season. Maybe they get him some routes. So I'm playing my Godwins, I'm playing my Evans, I'm playing my Fournette, I'm playing my Brady. Otherwise, Gronk as well. Otherwise, not really anything to consider in your regular leagues. Monty, Jamal Williams, or Ayuk? That is a good question. I'm going Jamal Williams. Yeah, I've said it a bunch of times, but I really like Jamal Williams this week. I'd probably go. God, this is a tough order. I'd probably go Jamal, Ayuk, Montgomery. Yeah, like Ayuk's going to get really good volume this week with Debo out. And then how do they change and adjust the they've given Debo like 8-9 rushing attempts the last couple of weeks per game. So what do they do to change that? I think they still want to involve those short concepts. I don't think it'll be handoffs. Or you're talking Javonte Williams. You also have Gibson and Connor at running back. Yeah, you're going to play Gibson and Connor. They're getting good volume, good matchups for those guys right now. I'd play Javonte over Montgomery, yeah. Yeah, I'd play Javonte over Montgomery. Javonte's in for a good week. We're finally going to get to see him by himself, and I love that guy. He's an elite tackle breaker. Like, if you look at the underlying numbers, he's ridiculous. His yards after contact, his tackles broken per touch, they're crazy. So I'd play Javonte over Montgomery. Montgomery has really good volume. Like, they're loving giving him the ball and living through the run game. But again, like, the touchdown upside, I don't see as much there. I would go Gibson and Connor at running back, like he said, and then I'd probably play Jamal Williams. Ayuk's definitely a good option, but Jamal, like, I think Dan Campbell's going to give him a ridiculous amount of carries, just like he did for Swift. Claypool or Ertz? Definitely Claypool. I mean, if we're getting Hopkins back, we've got Ertz, we've got Kirk, we've got Rondell Moore, we've got Hopkins. There's so many guys for him to get the ball to that I'm just a little bit worried about Ertz this week. I'd rather play Claypool. I mentioned it earlier, but the Steelers are going to throw the ball probably 50 times today, and the Ravens are last in the NFL in opponent yards, passing yards per completion, 12.7 yards per completion. They're giving up tons of big plays in the air. So I think Claypool being on the outside there has a chance to have a big boom week. So once we get off here, I'm definitely going to make some adjustments to my OwnersBox lineups and make sure that Claypool and Big Ben are in them. I'm not telling you Ben's going to be a top 6, top 8 quarterback this week, but he could very well be a solid QB2. especially if you're in Superflex. He's a must start this week. Okay, Falcons side of things. Mixon or Najee? God. Um, I could see Najee have 12 targets today. Um, they gotta get him the ball, right? He's such a good player. I'm gonna go Najee because I do think there's just a lot of reception upside, and then the Chargers have improved against the pass or against the run lately. Yeah, there you go. Chicago this time of year, ugly, ugly weather. Falcons side of things. I mean, Cordell Patterson, Kyle Pitts. That's it. I don't want to figure out whether it's going to be Zacchaeus or Gage. I think Gage is your best start among those guys. Like if we wanted to start like I'd probably play Gage over Galladay and Slayton. I'd probably play Gage over Devontae Parker. I'd probably play Gage over. Um, I mean, let me find another guy here. I'd play Gage over, Tyler Johnson. If I wanted to go Tyler Johnson against the Falcons, I'd probably play Gage. But I don't love Gage this week because it's just the Falcons. The Falcons will certainly be throwing the ball. They won't be able to run it. But I think it'll be Cordell Patterson, Kyle Pitts. Cardinals, Bears. I think Hopkins is somewhere in that wide receiver 20 range is probably where I'd have him. Just is there going to be a snap count limit? If there is, he'll probably get some important plays though that could lead to touchdowns because he's actually been a touchdown guy this year, not really the volume guy he's typically been the last little while. I think Christian Kirk is still you've got to keep playing Christian Kirk. It seems like he's just got a good rapport with whoever the quarterback is. He's just getting open, bottom line. Um, and then James Conner, of course. Bears side of things. I probably wouldn't start Josh Reynolds as a flex. No, I wouldn't. Philly or Miami D. Jared, I would go. I'd probably go. I'd probably go Miami D. Miami's like got this. It comes from last year and then it was last week, but they just have this way about them of turning the ball over and making some special teams plays. So I'll go with Miami, even though Philly's got a good matchup too. But Glennon, it's still Glennon for the Giants. So Bears, Montgomery and Mooney we're going with. Look, I know that Kmet has been really good the last few weeks. I shouldn't say really good. He's been a serviceable back end tight end one, but I would not. The Cardinals are really good against tight ends. I think they're number one in the NFL against tight ends in terms of fantasy points allowed. So I probably would try to avoid Kmet. I definitely play James O'Shaughnessy over Kmet, Pat Freiermuth over Kmet. Miles Sanders, Devontae Freeman, and Rex Burkhead. Yeah, Sanders and Freeman, not even close. Bryce, that's what I would say. I don't want to sound like a dick, but that's what I really like Freeman this week. Really, really like Freeman this week. Full PPR Elijah Moore or Pat Freiermuth. I would go Elijah Moore just for some more upside, big play. I do think Freiermuth has a good chance to score this week because I think the Steelers will be throwing the ball a lot. But I'd rather go Elijah Moore, just skill set upside. I don't usually like to put a tight end in the flex. All right, moving to football team Raiders. I think Logan Thomas coming back. It seems like he's going to kind of assume that role with good volume. What do I think in DFS? Anything you'd switch? Gibson, Evans, Cup. Yeah, I like the Renfro play for our youth. Mooney, Bucks defense. Jared, unfortunately, I can't answer this question because you just put Bucks defense. It means that you're playing on a site that isn't OwnersBox. Can't help you if you're not playing on OwnersBox. I mean, we have got no defense. You don't have to worry about playing defenses. There's, those are much harder to predict. We added Superflex spot. We have both the full quarterback spot and then an added Superflex spot. So if you're not playing there, get on and play on OwnersBox this week. Jared, if you go make an account, sign up. You got a free entry. If you use code Drew9, $10 into the contest. It's going to be live in, 33 minutes? So, oh, you're in Indiana. Yeah, that's brutal. We're trying to get in there. But I like Williams. I think Williams, in terms of like the DFS plays this week, will kind of fall behind some of these other options like the Javonte. Who else is stepping in? Madison. Who else? If Michelle starts, which it looks like he will, there's all these guys that are going to step into roles. And I think Williams will be kind of an afterthought for people. But Dan Campbell is all about running the ball. So I think Williams is a really good play. Gibson, right? You had Gibson, Evans, Cup, Renfro. Yeah, I think this is. I like what you're doing there. I do like the Steelers this week. So if you maybe went, I would probably try to go. I don't know what the price is on the site that you're on, but I would probably try to put Claypool in over Darnell Mooney. Oh, Aiden, Ramondre or Boston Scott? Oh, um, give me something else, Aiden. What else you got? Because I don't like either of those guys this week. But if I had to choose, I would go Boston Scott. Because it seems like Boston Scott still earned an opportunity, and it's not like when he missed practice, it was for an injury. It was just he was sick, so he should be good to play. If you're watching, drop a like. Give me a like, would you? Subscribe to the channel. OwnersBox has content on NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA. We've got everything here, so be sure drop a like on the channel. We'd appreciate it, and subscribe so that when I'm spending my Sunday morning here, I can go back to management, tell them, hey, we're getting good shit done on Sunday. And then somebody can help me fix this audio because I'm pretty sure it's pretty bad. Nobody's commented that it's bad, so maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Maybe I'll go back and do this at the office with some real help. Football team, Logan Thomas, Terry McLaurin. Taylor Heineke's a back-end QB1. I think he's a pretty good play this weekend. I'd rather play Derek Carr than play Taylor Heineke, but still good. Raiders, I really like Edwards and kind of like all of their options. Edwards, Renfro, and then Foster Moreau stepping in as the starter with Waller out. Jacobs has been dealing with an injury. It looks like he's going to play, from what I understand. But it might be, if you can find some other options at running back, I would go with something else. Claypool, Higgins, or Cooks. Yeah, I would do Claypool. I really like Claypool's upside this week. Traded for Carter, then he got hurt. Yeah. Freiermuth honestly, I'd probably play Freiermuth over Scott in the flex. Full PPR, Gronk, D-Hop, or Mooney. I would go Hopkins. Yeah, I would go Hopkins. I just think that if Hopkins is limited in snaps, he'll still get the snaps he gets will be high value snap. We're talking red zone. We're talking goal to go. So I would play Hopkins there. Just because Gronk's definitely a good play as well, but there's so many options there that maybe this is the week he doesn't get as involved. Chubb and Darrell Henderson sucks, but I have to play Claypool and Russell Gage now. That's not that bad. I like Claypool. Gage is, who knows, but Michelle or Sanders? That's a good question. I would probably go Michelle. Yeah, I'd go Michelle. It's very close between those two. Hopkins over Odell. Odell dealing with a hip issue. If there's, the chance that he's limited in snaps, I'd probably even I like Van Jefferson better now that Odell's hurt. So maybe Odell's the third guy right now this week. And then I mentioned Hopkins. I think he just has the opportunity to have high value snaps if his snaps are limited. Jags, Rams. I mean, we talked about this already a few times, but I like Jefferson over Odell. And then if Michelle's playing, you gotta play him. In your opinion, what game is most likely to give us a shootout? Honestly, I think the safe play would be taking a game that the Bucks are in, but I think there's a good chance that this Steelers-Ravens game is a bit of a shootout. The Steelers D has not been very as good as it was to start the year off that big win against the Bills. So I think there's a chance that Lamar moves the ball really well against them, and then I think the Steelers be throwing the ball a lot, and the Ravens have given up some explosive plays. That total is really low; it's like 44, so I might be hitting that over. But yeah, I think that's the game that gives us the best chance. It's either that or just a game between the Bucks and Falcons, just because they're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit, or the Falcons will be. Oh, Galladay or Devontae Parker. I'm going Galladay. Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in Devontae Parker. Okay, let's go the Jag side of things. Um, it, it looks like James Robinson is expected to play. If he plays, you've got to start him, even if there's that he's kind of been banged up for a little while now. Marvin Jones is someone I'm okay with playing with. Like I said, I like James O'Shaughnessy. Trevor Lawrence has been targeting tight ends at nearly a 22% rate. That lines up to about 7 targets a game for whoever is playing tight end. O'Shaughnessy had 5 targets last week, so I would play. I'd pick up O'Shaughnessy and play him this week over. I mentioned Evan Ingram. I'd play him over Ingram. I'd probably play him over. I play him over Komet as well. I kind of like him more than Ertz, to be honest. That's might be a little bit far-fetched for some of you, but I really like O'Shaughnessy this week. Ravens, Steelers. I mentioned Claypool. I really like Deontay Johnson. We're definitely playing this week. Najee Harris, even if I think the run game won't be a big recipe for them, he still has a chance to maybe see 10 targets because they're going to try to get him the ball in space because he's one of their best players. Give him a chance to make some stuff happen, but it probably won't be the conventional run game way. Ravens. Look, Marquise Brown is getting great volume. Bateman is definitely a flex option for people in this game against the Steelers. The Steelers have been pretty good against the pass, but they could be more focused on the Andrews, the Marquise Browns of the world, and then Bateman has a chance to have a good week. So I'm definitely, if I have Bateman, there's probably a good chance I'm playing him. And then of course Lamar. Other than that, I mean, we're not, I'm not looking at Duvernay or Sammy Watkins or anything like that. 49ers Seahawks. I talked about this earlier, but how do the 49ers get those, there's those plays to Deebo Samuel that were, the rushing attempts, he had 8 or 9. They're going to try to find plays like those. Who are they going to get it to? Is it going to be Ayuk rushing attempts, or is it going to be some just more traditional in terms of throwing the ball to your Ayuks, your Kittles, and then getting the ball to Elijah Mitchell in the run game? Because Elijah Mitchell's been really good this season, like in terms of yards after contact per attempt. And then they involved him a little bit in the receiving game, which is nice to see, because that would put him into RB1 rest of the season for sure if he's getting receptions as well. I'll have PPR sit to OBJ. Oh, it's a good group there. I would probably play. I'd probably play Lockett and Ayuk. No, I'd probably play Devontae Smith and Ayuk. And I'm sitting Lockett, Hopkins, and definitely OBJ. OBJ is not really in the conversation there, but I think with Minshew playing, Smith has a good chance to get into this like back end or front end wide receiver 1. Just the Jets are giving up nearly 300 yards a game in the air, so with Hurts out, they're definitely going to be more. They're going to be throwing the ball a fair bit more here. And then Lockett. The Lockett side is definitely Lockett is the preferred target for Russ, it seems like, since his return. But Ayuk could have some really good numbers this week. Like I said, I think the 49ers are going to be more traditional with their offensive attack and throw the ball a bit more as opposed to those touches to Deebo. And even if they do look to use Ayuk like they were using Deebo, then even better. Oh, 2 receivers: Smith, Hollywood, Lockett, Pittman. I'm going Smith and Hollywood there. Yeah. Yeah, Pittman just hasn't been at that same level lately. Seahawks, Metcalf and Lockett, you're going to be playing. I know Metcalf's been a tough one to play, but I mean he's one of the best players at the position in terms of skill. So I would expect to be seeing, them make a conscious effort to get him the ball a little bit more often. So I would definitely be going, I definitely be playing Metcalf still. Running back wise, like do not play Alex Collins. Even if you picked up AP off the wire, I wouldn't have picked him up. I didn't pick him up anywhere because he's not the player he used to be. It's not going to happen. So I would not play any Seahawks running backs this week. Last one, Broncos Chiefs. Javonte Williams looks like he's going to have the room to himself, so that's huge for him and makes him a must-start player this week. The Chiefs are pretty bad against the run. They've definitely improved defensively over the last 4 or 5 weeks, but Javonte in a room by himself is enough for anybody, I would say, to start him. A Robinson, Monty, or Rex Burkhead. Honestly, I'd play Montgomery just because of Robinson's injury issues here. He's expected to play, but I'd rather play Montgomery knowing he's healthy, and I know Montgomery is still going to get great volume this week. Noah Fant, we're playing, of course, and then if I could sit Sutton, I would, because Judy's just seems to be the top option. And then Tim Patrick's been like plenty involved. If it was like, Deontay Spencer or somebody like that was the third wide receiver and not Tim Patrick, then we could feel better about Sutton. But, with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, it's just hard to say, Judy's the clear one. Sutton is probably the 2, but with Patrick involved, then I'm less likely to want to play the 2 with just not a lot of passing volume. Chiefs side of things, Clyde Edwards-Helaire I thought looked pretty damn good in his return. He's expected to play. I'm going to be playing Clyde Edwards-Helaire if he's on my roster. And then our Tyreek Hills, our Pat Mahomes, our Travis Kelce's are going to be playing. Otherwise, nothing else on the Chiefs side. But, guys, I'm going to probably get out of here. If you guys have any more questions before we close things up, drop them in. But that's every game. Looking forward to the slate. It's not great in terms of competition. I would say the best game this weekend, not including Bills Patriots, is probably Chargers Bengals, and then I'd probably give the football team and Raiders the number 2 slot. No, Ravens Steelers is probably the number 2 slot. I think I'm betting the football team today on the road. All right, guys. Thanks for dropping in. Enjoy the games today.